welcome to another episode of the AKI Built podcast. I'm your host, Alexa Crozier, and today I'm sitting down with Connor Tidd, co-founder and CEO of Just Vertical. Connor's journey from restaurant kitchens to academic sustainability research and now to building indoor hydroponic farms has shaped a mission that blends sustainability, design, and real-world impact. Today we're diving into that journey, exploring both the personal story and the business challenges of scaling a company in a rapidly evolving space. Could you start us out, Connor, and just tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, your role at Just Vertical, and what motivated you to start the journey into vertical farming?
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to be here, happy to share. So I'm one of
Thank
the
you.
one of the two co-founders here at Just Vertical, where we build indoor gardens and indoor farms around the world. And when I talk about what got me into it's something simple. It's tacos. Love them, swear by them,
Oh,
and I swear the key to a good taco is all in the fresh cilantro. But I always had the issue of you go to the grocery store and you buy it, and it comes in that one bunch. It's way too big to
yep,
use at once. So you end up using
yep.
half of it, put the rest in the fridge, and like 2 days later, it's garbage.
Guilty.
It's, everyone's done it, whether it's the cilantro
Yeah.
or the box of spinach you promise yourself you get through, like we've all done it. So my challenge was okay, I live in downtown Toronto. How can I grow my own food so that I have fresh food year round and I can pick off what I need? And that was the start of the idea for Just Vertical and figuring out how we can grow our own food no matter where we live and all year round.
I love that. I'm so guilty of putting that box of spring mix in the fridge and just letting it expire after I've used it once. 100%. How did you
But yeah.
find that those the early frustrations evolve into the design philosophy that makes your system both sustainable and beautiful?
Yeah, so it's a mix of, the problems that I was having, and I would tell that story and, I'd get a very visceral response like that, where like everyone does it
Yeah.
and feels bad. And then it's mixed with Kevin, my co-founder, and I both have, sustainability roots. Like for us, the sustainability part is first and foremost, and I think that resonates with our customers. And that kind of lends itself to, okay, what technology do we go with? How do we think about the choices we make?
Yeah.
And one of the very first things we did was, we were two grad students when we started this. We built a prototype in the lab, and it looks exactly what you think a lab prototype would look like, a lot of lights, tubes.
Yeah.
Uh, Brought it home, and my partner said, I love the idea, I love the sustainability. You
Yeah.
can't put that in our house. So,
Yeah.
that kind of kicked off like, okay, it's got to work well, it's got to be sustainable, but it's got to be something people like and they're willing to interact with and put into their home. And that's how, on the consumer side of the business, we got started with integrating the growing into a piece of furniture.
But also, we live in Canada, which predominantly can be pretty cold. So this works with the terrain. I've always wanted to just grow my own vegetables in the backyard, but it's not sustainable. So when you look at the design philosophy, how important would you say it is for you to balance the function and aesthetics, and why do you think the design is such a critical factor in the adoption of it?
Yeah, I live in downtown Toronto. We got customers in Vancouver and Montreal where we're all paying way too much for our houses.
Yep.
It's when you got limited space, everything's got to look and feel good. And when we were going down the design route, one of the first things we ran into is a lot of people in terms of indoor growing, they'd seen the counter units, the countertop units, which are
Mhm.
pretty common. When you actually
Yep.
talk to users, what goes on your counter at home? It's usually a battle between like the coffee maker, the blender, and the toaster. The indoor
Yep.
garden ranks pretty low. So it's like, okay, if
Yep.
we want to get wider adoption, it's got to be something that people are going to adopt and want to show off. And then in terms of, function, it's function and design as well as like usability. One of the first
Mhm.
versions we made was perfectly functional and almost 100% automated. And a lot of the feedback that came back was like, I actually want to do a little bit of work so that I feel like I deserve what's coming out of this. So we actually had like kind of like dumb down the usability a little bit so that people had something to do, just 5 minutes a week. And then that way, you're interacting with it, you feel like you deserve the food you're getting out of it.
I like that. That makes you feel part of the process. What the farmer gets is the reward of seeing someone using their product and eating it and feeling healthy. With that then being the social impact expansion of Just Vertical, it's grown beyond individual homes into schools as well as commercial spaces, even your refugee support programs in Ukraine. What has inspired that evolution, and how do you see the vertical farming contributing to community resilience worldwide?
Yeah, again, for Kevin and I, it's that sustainability, that food security piece.
Yeah.
I love the in-home units and what they can do for your house, but I'm aware they're priced at a
Mm.
higher end of the market. They're not available for everyone, and they kind of either 12 plants, 16 plants, and 88 plants. It's not going to move the needle far enough for what we need to feed the planet. So we said, okay, how can we take the same core technology and scale this up to make a real impact? And we started, like you said, we started doing schools, a few restaurants, and now we've scaled it to the point where we're building full-on indoor farms in buildings downtown. You could be walking by and not know there's 200,000 plants growing in there. And what it does is, like we're in the midst of wildfire season here in Canada. That seems to be getting worse year after year. It's, when a wildfire rips through farmland, like that food's gone until the next season. It's okay. Yeah, so it's like, okay, what can we do to grow food in different ways so that we don't end up in a position where, food prices continue to go up or where things start to disappear off the shelves. So it was really about that. How can we improve the food system in a better way for everybody?
What's the adoption like, especially in restaurants? I know they have to deal with large quotas. They don't want to keep running out of product or wasting product. Do you find that there's issues with the adoption of a design like yours?
Yes, there's kind of like two facets for the restaurants. And,
Yeah.
as like I did a decade in restaurants, it's hectic. There's lots
Yeah.
going on, and there is a value to every square foot in that restaurant. So
Mm.
it is a hard sell to say, hey, why don't we replace part of this with an indoor farm? So what we've actually seen a lot of restaurants do is they'll bring in, a consumer unit or a small, almost like a green wall. And what happens
Hmm.
is in the middle of dinner service, the chef makes a big deal of walking over to the wall and snipping off some basil. Their whole idea is we can say on this menu, local this, local that, 100-kilometer sourcing. But if you actually want to connect your consumer, connect your diners with that, there's nothing better than your chef going over and snipping it off because now everyone
Yeah.
thinks that's in their dish, right? So you get the visual and the story impact there of their ongoing sustainability efforts. But often what they come to us and say is, okay, I've got a really hard time sourcing this variety of crisp lettuce or this herb. Uh, can you build a farm for me somewhere else off site where I can bring it
Hmm.
in, or can you connect me with a farmer who can do that? And that's the role we play. Where we do
Hmm.
see capacity to actually build these indoor farms on site is post-secondary institutions, universities, just because they've got the real estate for it, as well as long-term care homes has been a big one for us, where they're running restaurants and food service
Yeah.
on site, and they've got the capacity to do it, and then engage their community of seniors around it as well.
I love that. They can take part in that process too. That gives them something to look forward to every day. That's really cool.
Absolutely.
Wow,
Yeah,
the size of
yeah.
the impact. Did you think it would be that big when you had this idea?
Oh no, absolutely not. Like, I said this was a spin-off of our grad school research, and
Yeah.
when we started, we were just playing around. Like I was still applying for jobs. Kevin had a
Yeah.
full-time job, and it wasn't until we got lucky and we got a big contract that someone
Very
was like,
good.
here's a check for 50 grand, build me a farm. As a grad student,
Sweet.
that's more money than I'd ever seen in my life. I was like,
Yeah, you're like, my
uh-oh,
rent
like
is
it's
taken care
real
of. We're
now.
good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like, uh-oh, gotta actually do this for real now.
Yeah. I love that. No, that's all part of the nitty-gritty of entrepreneurship, It's on that note too with just the e-commerce, because you run that now for someone like me. If I wanted to go on, I could go on your website, I could purchase my own garden that would be installed. Do you guys do that entire process from start to finish for the customer?
Yeah, so for the consumer units, they show up to your door fully assembled.
Mm.
Like you'll be up and running within 15 minutes. It's You gotta turn the timers on your lights, you gotta fill up the water and obviously take it out of its packaging, but it's really
Yep.
designed to be like as easy to use as possible.
And that is obviously pretty self-sustaining as far as having a website where people can come visit, they can buy it for their own personal use. But when it comes to your more business to business based growth, how do you guys currently go about finding, say, a lead, whether it's a school, a corporate partner, a nonprofit? What's worked best so far for you?
Yeah, for us, we're fortunate we do get a lot of inbound. Like we are, doing your standard mix of digital marketing, your SEO optimization, your PPC. We'll run campaigns around it. And then as we've grown, we've started to see a lot of referral business come in. So
Yeah.
one of the cool things about building a massive indoor farm is everybody wants to go take a tour. So
Mm-hmm.
you build these and they kind of become lead engines for you, where it's, people want to go in, they want to see it, they want to hear the story, uh, and they want to talk to the farmer and, they get interested, like who built this, who do we work with? And that's why for us, it's not just about pushing it at the equipment on the B2B side. It's we help them with design, we make sure the farm's feasible. Like we've turned down deals because we told them, like, guys, you're not going to make any money on this. Like it's just not feasible for you. So it's like the farmer's success is our success in the long run. So I'd say we're our primary channels are digital and referral.
And the farmers themselves are giving you their seeds or their plants to then be basically refurbished into these homes.
Yeah,
Am
so
I
like
following that correctly?
depending on what the farmer's doing, like every farmer's got a different outlet for their produce. So some of them just sell into groceries, some of them it's like direct into their food service. Some people it's just for their own consumption. So it really depends on the farmer.
And then you guys go to organic based farming. It's all like no extra added chemicals, stuff like that.
Yeah, so one of the really cool things about growing indoors is there's no pesticides. So I,
Exactly.
I come from an ag background, and a lot of people are
Mm-hmm.
surprised to hear like there are pesticides in organic growing. Like it's just the
Mm-hmm.
nature of growing outside. But because you're indoors, you can control the environment and there's no pesticides. And then I always like to give the comparison, whether you're an organic grower or a conventional grower, everybody's got to nourish the soil, often in the form of a fertilizer. For our systems, we use about a teaspoon every 2 weeks for your indoor growing system at home. If you've ever used fertilizer outside or seen a farmer spraying a field, a teaspoon goes nowhere.
Yep.
And that's just due to the fact of like, you put it on there, you water the plant, how much of that washes away into the ground, runs off the top. Our systems they're closed loops, so they're all circulating, recirculating. So the plants, whatever they don't absorb, just gets refed back to them until it's gone. So you also have no fertilizer runoff at all, which is a great thing.
Very self sustaining, a lot of the reusable energy. In scaling hardware like that, pain points maybe could be energy demands, retrofitting buildings, navigating budget approvals. What challenges do you see that are most consistent when moving from interest in implementation?
Yeah, obviously with hardware, there's a big capex. So you got to negotiate with your customer. Hey, like I need to buy this equipment, and I may need to be buying this equipment 12 months before you're growing. How do we negotiate this gap? How much of a down payment do we do? How do we negotiate those milestones? And then you add on to the layered complexity of this. It's usually a brand new technology for them. It's not a massively proven industry. It's not like we're pre-ordering cars and putting a deposit down on a 2026 Honda Civic.
Yeah.
Often these businesses are selling into the champions, trying to sell into the board or into management. Let's start an indoor farm and let's go with these guys and let's try and give them a significant down payment for what hopefully works out in 12 months. It's the added sales challenges on top of a regular hardware business there, and that's where for us those
Mhm.
referrals and making sure customers' success is so important.
How have you guys approached sourcing, production, distribution? Are there any lessons you have learned for other founders that could be listening?
Yeah, absolutely. So for us, it's been interesting when we started out, no money. We actually built all of our units out of wood in a old potato storage facility that we got for free. Until it got to the point where we're like, we're going to have hundreds of people working here. Like, this isn't feasible. We rejigged the manufacturing process where we outsourced the production of certain things we weren't good at. One thing we've always been adamant about, though, is keeping the QA QC in house. So even though parts may be manufactured elsewhere, it all comes to us, and we do the final checks in assembly ourselves. Just because, like, in the world of manufacturing, you can try and define your product as much as you want, but like until that shows up at your door, you never know what's going to happen. Like, we've had pieces come in the wrong color, the wrong size, damaged. And if you're not checking, like, unfortunately, like, you need somebody to check along the line, because if your customer's getting that, that's where you get those horror stories that would have been really easily solved by just swapping it out before it went out.
Getting the wrong color. I'm sure
Yeah,
you've
like, no
seen it all as
joke.
far as that goes.
You order black and it comes in white. Like, it's crazy.
Do you see a role for an AI with your company currently and how that nurtures your relationships with your distributors, institutions, or the corporate clients?
Absolutely. Like, if you're not using AI at this point, like, you're behind the ball here. For example, like, if anyone's ever been on like a year and a half long construction project, so much information gets tossed around that is incredibly hard to keep track of. And it's just kind of like the AI basics of, like, looking at integrating an AI agent that sits in on your meetings, that does the note taking for you, that does the action
Phenomenal.
items.
Yeah.
Like, it saves so much work. And then when you go back and say, oh, like, what was our decision on this, you can pull that in 2 minutes
Yeah.
versus 20 minutes of rifling around and making three different calls. uh, and then, if you this goes out to anybody who's ever been in project management as well, there's a lot of really
Mm.
boring note taking,
Yeah.
task keeping, chart doing, that, like, AI is perfectly suited to do and to assist with. So the
hmm
tools are definitely there, and there's some exciting stuff coming out even on the plant science side for crunching these massive data sets we feed in to optimize growth.
I think you've hit a lot of the business to business partnerships. Like you've been involved corporately, nonprofit space, schools, restaurants. Do you think with sitting on really interesting data, the crops people grow, how they perform, where the adoption is the strongest, could AI help you turn that into smarter recommendations or even identify the right business to business partnerships to pursue next?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, when we do a project debrief, it's like you actually involve, the AI agent in it to pull out stuff from the data set that you might not recognize, where it's like, okay, as we've built these and we've done, 20 debriefs that are all hundreds of pages of conversations, it's like, okay, what common trends are you seeing? And, like, you get those little pullouts that you might not recognize because they kind of get lost in the mess. Where it's like, oh, corporates are very concerned about timelines and reporting. It's like,
Yeah.
nonprofits are concerned about social equity and the good and the employment, and schools are concerned about training. And, we notice there's a September every year a new teacher gets involved, and, like, how can we
Yeah.
prepare for that? So it does pull out those insights that might have otherwise been missed.
100%. With looking at growth, what's been most effective for visibility? Trade shows, your digital campaigns. That's how I actually first learned about you, was just the role you played in Ukraine. We can touch on that later. Or you said word of mouth partnerships. I know we use a lot of AI to amplify those types of voices or further one of those channels. Where would you want to see the biggest lift as far as where
Yeah.
you're getting more maximum outreach?
So it's interesting with the consumer stuff. Like, digital is pretty hard to beat in terms of just reach. On the corporate side, and truly for the consumers as well, we say you never lose money on a trade show because you're always going to
hmm
sell enough to make up for it. But it is a heavy lift, right? You're traveling, like, you're there for a week. Like, I'm going to be in Calgary for a food trade show in 7 days, and it's
No
flights,
way.
it's hotels, it's shipping stuff. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so you might not lose money on it, but it's a lot of work, and you're a small business. You can only do so many of them.
Totally.
But they are necessary to reach those corporate buyers because you need to get FaceTime with them to really get in their heads and get on their radar.
hmm If you could wave a magic wand then and use AI or even just fix any bottleneck in the food system, whether it's from the farming distribution, the consumer education, where would you apply it first?
In terms of the entire food chain, food system, it'd be in food distribution. Like that's where we lose most food. Like we grow enough food for everybody. It's we just can't get it to their plates. And it's, how do we optimize getting the fresh food out to the people who need it in the most effective way?
It kind of goes back to what you were saying before of like getting a product that you can keep in your fridge, hopefully for the longevity of it and maximize its use. So, can you touch on you're going to be at a food show here in 7 days? Because if we have
Yeah,
any
it
people from
is.
Calgary listening, where would they find you?
Yeah, it's gonna be the next food expo. It's called. It'll be it's at the BMO Center, so just right downtown. It is, I believe, September 8th and 9th.
Okay. And you buy a ticket, you can show up, or do you have to be from a organization to get in?
Yeah, it is. Looks like there are tickets
Yeah.
available still.
Okay.
So
That's awesome. We'll have to post below about that.
yeah, September 8th and
Awesome.
9th at the BMO Center in Calgary.
At the end of the day, the product is about reconnecting people to food. Do you find that human stories like classrooms growing food, families reducing waste resonate more with the ROI metrics when building those partnerships?
Yeah, whatever we're selling, the number one lesson I always take away and I give folks is you're selling to people at the end of the day,
Mm,
and the human story is definitely part of it. Sometimes it's what opens the door, sometimes it's what seals the deal. Uh, as much as, economics and AI and computer may say, like,
mm,
we can all be reduced to these statistics, at the end of the day, it's a human who signs the check, and you gotta
totally.
integrate that emotion into it. Like you don't ignore the ROI and the other metrics, but the more you can weave that those metrics into a story, the better it's gonna resonate with folks, and the greater result you're gonna have.
100%. And to kind of wrap on one of the amazing proof stories that you guys most recently got involved in Ukraine with the war, can you touch on that, just some highlights and what it's doing today for everyone that's utilizing the farm?
Yeah, so this was a great project we did. We partnered with Global Medic, which is a Canadian charity. They do emergency disaster relief around the world. You see them on the news a whole bunch, responding to
Yeah.
wildfires across Canada. But the challenge that they took on was the war in Ukraine has been going on for quite a while now, and with refugees pouring out of the country, most people don't know there's a small country on the border called Moldova that most Ukrainians transit through. And essentially, a lot of these refugees have become permanent in Moldova. One of the challenges of food aid is it's very easy to deliver your rice, your beans, your dried goods that you need to survive. They've got the calories, but
Mm,
fresh food is incredibly difficult. So, Global Medic and the My Health Foundation, who sponsored this, said, what can we do to provide fresh food on site and to build resiliency within these communities? So, with them, we developed the concept for an indoor farm over there, and came with all the challenges of working in Eastern Europe, different voltages, different lights. But we developed the solution, and myself and another member of our team, Chris, actually flew over there to build it and participate in the food distribution. So we
that's
built it in an
awesome.
old Soviet farmhouse and trained the locals to run it, and they're
Yeah.
now growing fresh food that they both
Wow.
use locally and goes into the emergency food aid distributions that they
It's
do.
amazing. Wow. From vision to impact, eh? Like, and you got to be there and just see the very people that were benefiting from the farm too. That's awesome. How long
Yeah.
does it take then to grow from seed to plant where I can eat?
Yes, your quickest turnaround is going to be lettuce. Like a fast turning lettuce could be 14 to 28 days. So, you're going to turn over their farms about 1,000 plant boards. Like they'll turn over 1,000 to 2,000 heads of lettuce a month in there.
Hmm.
So it's, the small village they're in, it's perfect size to do that. The cool thing is like if you're doing cherry tomatoes, for example, and we worked with another partner, New Leaf Farms, on building a cherry tomato farm in the Red Deer Food Bank. One of the cool things with those is when you grow them inside, once they start flowering and producing tomatoes, you can actually push them to keep doing that for months and months on end. So you get that constant supply.
For anyone that's sort of curious to how, if they wanted to implement this in their house straight away, and you were to highlight exactly what the vertical farm does and what it will help, initiate in their lives, how would you describe that to them so they know exactly what they're getting in this product?
Yeah, it really is. It's a way to reconnect with your food and bring fresh food into your house. And it's, picture a beautiful piece of furniture. It's got its own built-in lighting, its own built-in watering system. So all you need is a standard plug in your wall. You're up and running in 10 minutes. And we've got people who say they used to kill cactuses who are now growing successfully. So it
That's
waters
hilarious.
itself for you. The
Yeah.
lights turn on and off automatically. All you got to remember to do is add water once every 2 weeks. So it's even enough. But that's it. It's like as long as you get it with some water every 2 weeks, you're gonna have awesome tasting fresh food year round.
So realistically, I could go on vacation. I don't have to worry about my farm dying on me as long as that water's full.
As long as you top up the water before you
Yeah.
go, you're good to go.
Yeah. What's the general cost then on a monthly basis as far as, because we're talking about just the cost of living and stuff like that as well. Would I see a massive increase on my bill?
No, like the in-home units, it's just LED lights and a small pump. So you're looking at about $3 a month in electricity.
Not
And
bad.
yeah, and when we talk about founders injecting personal pain points into their products, I hate subscriptions. So like you
Yeah.
won't find a subscription to go with our product. It's like you bought it,
Yeah.
it's yours.
Yeah.
Like, whether you continue to buy those seeds from us or you buy them locally, you've got your options.
Mhm.
We're happy to help. We just want you to be growing and using it.
No, all good things to know. For those listening who want to learn more and connect with Connor, you can visit justvertical.com or find him on LinkedIn. Go on that website, you guys, because they have different tiers of different kinds of farms you can purchase for your house. And if you enjoyed this episode, do not forget to subscribe and share. It helps us spotlight more leaders who are shaping the intelligent future.